call this meeting to order. This is May 8th, 5:30, the Opioid Abatement Committee at the Sumner County Administration Building, Room 112. I'd like to ask Danny Sullivan if he would do the invocation.
Sure will. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, Lord. We thank you for many blessings that you give us on bless our citizens of this county, and that you would hold us in the palm of your hands. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Request a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody want to speak as a public? No, you're good? Okay. Moving on. Approval of the minutes from February 27th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the minutes from April the 23rd. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Report of the committee chair. I don't have anything to report other than we're doing an awesome job. And I think we're going to benefit a lot of people. And I'm proud of our team. And so we'll move on to the report of the Grant County.
So looking at the numbers that are being passed out, as we have invested in High Point Health, as far as emergency calls go, the ambulances are still running considerable time to High Point Health. So that is the first area. The second one is following up from the conversation of last month. The SMART Initiative, as well as CTAS, has asked Sumner County to host an informational session on opioids. It will be in Nashville, so that way all Middle Tennessee can come to the event. The dates right now we're looking at will be either Wednesday, July 23rd or July 30th. Our role is strictly to act as a host. They're going to take care of the food, the lunch, the snacks. We're there just to present, and so I'll have more information on that coming next month. But right now they're wanting to showcase through the things that we're doing, which is the infrastructure projects. The first one is with High Point Health. The second one is with Recovery Court and Judge Blanton's group and Judge Hunter. And the third one is the one that, if you all approve tonight, between the Sheriff's Office and Volunteer Behavioral Health, they would want to show the case site as well. The other aspects are looking at how we run our program as far as being a reimbursement program for the grants and doing large-scale direct appropriations that has some money up front. And then the third option, the state will come in towards the end of the meeting, and hopefully the Comptroller's Office will provide guidance as far as how they are going to be looking at our financials to prepare all the counties for auditing. Turnouts will be for all elected officials will be invited, of course. Anybody from a finance perspective, because they do get continuing education on it, just like the elected officials, and then they're going to start looking at members of the recovery community. And that concludes my report.
We'll move on to old business. The status of recovery court application in this project.
The status right now is we're waiting for the budget to be passed or recommended to the county commission. Right now we are still looking at the $132,000, which has already been appropriated to recovery court not-for-profits to go for the build out. We have set aside $500,000 for the build out, which leaves $632,000. My colleague, Mr. Shamrock, has been working with an architectural firm just to see what the numbers would be to have an architect. The architect for this size of project would be roughly $100,000 to $110,000. We may get a discount on it, so therefore we're only looking at building out probably 75% of that area. Coming up on June 4th, I will be walking that area with Judge Hunter as well as a member of the Sheriff's Office just to go through the space to write a proposal to see how much the architects will truly cost us. But as of right now, we're looking at only having $632,000 for this project, and it cannot go over budget. So when we do an RFP to do the build out, we will have stipulations in there that certain sections may come out depending on the price.
Any questions, anyone? No? The next one is direct appropriation request from the sheriff's office and volunteer behavioral health, and that's pages 19 to 25.
So tonight I'm looking for a vote. Sheriff Craddock is here, as well as Ms. Janet Parrish from Volunteer Behavioral Health. We're working to do a project together. The project would consist of two components. First component is for the sheriff's office being a scanner project. Right now, they're needing another body scanner for those inmates that are coming into the facility, as well as a mail scanner. At this point in time, the sheriff's office does not have any mail scanning abilities. In addition, the component that is also needed is a partnership with Volunteer Behavioral Health. They'll be working with the inmates that have gone through recovery, and so that way, when they are returning back to society, they actually have the next focus on the volunteer behavioral health and help those that are returning back to society find what they need, whether it's mental health or whether it's a medical assisted program. They would be a point of contact for them and to be able to assist them to get onto TennCare, as well as any additional programs that they may need. And to that, I turn it over to Sheriff Craddock and to Janet.
You want to go first?
We'll have to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second. All in favor? Go ahead, Nancy.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Sumner County. I'm director of the clinic here at Cam2. And what I wanted to do, very excited for this opportunity to work with the sheriff's office. What would essentially be done is that the funds would be paid for in the behavioral health liaison position, which provides crisis services and care management services for the inmates. Also, we plan to assume 50% and plus the benefits in order to create a full-time position for them. Also, another portion of the funds would be utilized to cover any clinical mental health appointments such as therapy, medication management, etc. And also that do not qualify for the 10-year safety net. We will also utilize funds to source first, we will first utilize the TennCare facility, and those other funds that we receive will be backup funds. We could also utilize the funds to begin overcoming barriers for the inmates, and that includes obtaining legal documents, because for most of these inmates come out of the prison system, they have trouble obtaining documentation, employment. We will utilize the behavioral health to do all that, and also to assist with overlooking placement for them. So, again, you can tell that we have a number of things that we can do to assist the inmates.
I have a question. So your staff be going right into the jail to offer the assistance?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And I had another question. I know that when we approved healthcare for they had a mental health component. Is this a little bit different because it's a little more intense?
Yes. So right now, under our current contract, their turnkey health is contracted to provide 56 hours of behavioral health, psychological health per week. You can imagine with an average daily population somewhere around 750, 56 hours doesn't go very far. And so this will supplement that. It'll be really beneficial.
Okay, I can see that because I know you can't. I do it too, so I know I understand your situation. I just wanted to make sure that when we talk about it, we're not duplicating in a way, because that will be a question. But I love the idea. So the liaison, it sounds to me like you're going to have like a nurse practitioner or someone or a psychiatrist intervening in medication management.
Yes, we have.
Okay, and then you'll have a psychologist intervening for talk therapy, counseling, and then a liaison to kind of give them outreach abilities. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what I hear you
Already
say?
we have an in-house nurse practitioner, and she is overseeing by the, contract.
Okay.
Great for me. First, I think they're going to be a great partner for us. I think we're going to see really good things coming out of the jail, lower recidivism rate. I think it's going to be great. So thank you for your work.
I think they're pretty grounded in the community for a long time, and they know the population, so I think it's in a way that's a great thing because you are grounded here already, and you're actually located in a wonderful area because you're across the hospital and you're nearly across the jail area, so it's a good opportunity. We'll bring us back in session for you.
So for the Tech 84, the body scanner, currently we have one of those. It is aging, just like any other piece of equipment that have to be replaced. But ultimately, this will supplement in times that it goes down or needs required maintenance. This will allow us to have separate ingresses for inmates to be scanned. That way, if something's happening in intake, we have to bring them through a secondary entrance, or we're bringing trustees in. It's going to help minimize the contraband and the opioids coming into the jail. The mail scanner, this is a brand new addition. This is something that we saw at a conference a year ago. It uses no radiation. It uses radio frequency waves to scan the mail, which is a problem in jails across the state. People are cloning or fabricating legal mail, which obviously has some ramifications. We can't just open up legal mail and search it. You have attorney-client privileges, and soaking that into substances, and then it's getting into the jail and they're using it. And so the mail scanner will help us eliminate that problem as well. Anything that I missed, Dustin?
Instead of just one mail scanner, right now in the bid specs, there's 2 mail scanners. So that way you'll have 2 body scanners as well as 2 mail scanners.
So we're looking at buying 2 mailers and 1 body.
Correct.
So it's 3 equipment.
3 total pieces of equipment.
This is $13,000 annually, every year you get paid.
And so the one benefit with this particular mail vendor is that if there's something suspicious that our guys see, they have 24/7 on call. So, hey, we're seeing this. You look at it, they have an expert on call. They do all the updates. They service it all. And it's a pretty robust piece of equipment.
So we're offering $500,000 for this, right?
This is total.
So it's total $532,032,
Yes.
right? And our offer was for all of it, or I don't remember, the offer for all of it, $500,000.
So I believe 500,000 will be going toward the sheriff's office, and the 132 roughly is going to volunteer behavioral health.
Oh, okay. So this is
Sorry,
included with them
115. Yes.
for you guys as well. It's not
Right, correct. Collaboration.
I guess my only concern, maybe twofold. I mean, I definitely need it. I know volunteer, what they stand for. I guess my question number 1 is on appropriations, do we allow indirect?
Indirect as far as what?
Indirect costs, because in the budget that volunteer presented, which leads me to question 2, is their indirect at 26.9%. So that's at $24,000 that technically we wouldn't have say-so on how they spend it.
Correct. So yes, we do allow indirects because you're looking with them, just like with the hospital agreement, that is going to be a contracted service. So once the funds are released to them, it's the same principle as it is with High Point Health. It is a contractual service, so we give them the funds, and looking at it, they'll decide on the needs of the patient of what needs to move, or the needs of the inmate, which way to move forward. So yes, we would not have say-so over that part.
And I'd just like to state then for the record that the state OAC actually put a limit on indirect at 15%.
That's only for their contracts with Opioid Abatement Committee. That does not impact anything that we have over our funds. So in our,
I just want it for the record, yeah.
But for the
Because, I mean, the reason I'm raising that concern is, again, we wouldn't have oversight over those funds. So, I mean, I understand where the 26.9% comes on a federal allocated, but on appropriation of having 24,000, that's basically, we can't ask what they did with that money. I think general nonprofit indirect's probably 10%. I think they did recently bump up to 15 max. But.
I do think in our reports, though, when they give us our reports, that they tell us what they're using the money for. They have to declare, like the 24%. We may not have it say, but they have to declare it. They have to say, this is what we spent the money on. Am I correct?
You're correct. So even if you want to, if you all decide to make the motion, if you wanted to say in the invoices, you know, for the indirect, please specify where it went to, you have that right as well.
Right.
So you can make that request.
Like I said, I just want to raise the concern because reading this proposal, it's only for FTE of 50%, so a part-time person. I mean, that's half their salary in indirect, pretty much.
So do you want to make a motion to ask them to clarify on their indirect cost invoices? Would you like to make that motion? Or you just want to?
I would make the motion that they just exclude indirect, honestly, on appropriation.
I mean, what you could do is, if you wanted to, you could ask direction for the indirects. If you're looking for it under salaries, you could ask for the time card to see how much time they've actually spent with the sheriff's office.
I mean, I'm not questioning the 50% time because that's a separate line item, the salary, right? What I'm questioning is the indirect cost of the whole grant proposal they put out there. Is it $24,433?
So would you like to see that invoice separately, or do you want them maybe to come back and reevaluate that area?
I just think it's, you know, us as a council, we're supposed to be the stewards of the money. Again, it's not the project. I think the project has a lot of validity to it. I think the indirect cost is a little absurd for a part-time position.
Sorry, I'm looking ahead on multiple ways to help address this. So looking at it, what you could do is ask them to come back and ask for those funds to be moved. You can make a motion that puts those funds aside where they'd have to come back to us saying we would like to use it for X, Y, and Z instead, so that way the funds can be obligated. Those are two options that automatically come to my mind.
I have a question. So with the 24,000, what would they use it on, or what would be an issue?
Well, but
If we didn't change, like leave it just the way it is, but if.
that's 24,000. That's 24,000 that we wouldn't have jurisdiction on how they spend it. It doesn't have to follow the remediation list or anything. It's indirect cost, meaning that it personally goes to just general operation that probably they're already paying.
Right. But I mean, if they spend it however they want, I mean, they only have a certain amount of money anyway, so if they use it, they use it. What would the problem,
Because this is appropriation, this isn't a grant. This is like, hey, we have this money, we're gonna appropriate to you. And that's the way I'm understanding this, right? They didn't submit a proposal in a sense.
Right.
This is appropriation, so it's like we're giving you the money.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what,
So like generally,
could it cause a problem?
when you write
Right.
grants, yeah, you can write indirect costs, right?
Right.
Uh,
So it can just be spent on whatever, even though we're appropriating this money for a certain cause.
right.
Okay, I follow you.
And it, but, you know, indirect is allowed by the remediation list,
Mm-hmm.
but even the state put a clause on it that it couldn't be that high. They cap theirs at 15%.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So we have one FTE for the behavioral health liaison. We have a 30% for 50% for 24 months. Of course, that includes all benefits, et cetera. And then there's a 50% startup. So it looks like maybe that I can suspend the rules if we want and ask them what they might think they need it for. But I think it's kind of, I understand the appropriations part of it, what you're saying. I don't think it hurts to make a motion to say when you turn in your appropriation percentage invoice list what you used it for, and give us at least maybe like a quarterly, update on what you used it for. I don't see any reason to do that, not do that. But at this point, I'm not sure,
Well, also my train of thought was, I think you had 500,000 that rolled over because of recovery court, is that right? It was kind of on hold.
So no, so you have 3 checks. And so what this body did at the last meeting was we swapped recovery court from check 2 to check 3. Just moved this to check 2. This way it gives recovery court an extra year to do a build out in case there's complications.
Right.
So all the funds that we have, all 3 checks right now are in the budget for FY 25-26, and so the funds are all there.
Hey,
Not
question.
holding anything back.
So for this particular project, can we, as far as the 24,000 plus on the indirect funds, can we, if we make a motion to show in the quarterly reports what the indirect funding is used for, can we as a committee moving forward put a cap on indirect funds of 15%? Or would, I mean, would that be beneficial to, I think we should at least be matched where the state of Tennessee is, I think. On grants. But I mean,
I think going forward,
but I think as far, I think this is gonna be a great program.
Yeah, I'm not,
And a great partnership, and I think if we put something in motion that would give us more, be more transparent on what the indirect, or I'm not opposed to suspending the rules and letting her talk if she would like to address that.
I make a motion that we suspend the rules.
Second.
I said, there's no problem with that, clarifying how this may be, maybe anyway, clean operation, and no problem. Is there any question?
Well, the point he's making is, it's hard to understand what indirect costs would be that you're going to use. Like, what is the indirect cost that you're foreseeing, like your projection? What kind of things would you spend that on in an indirect cost?
Right. Well, the things that we are projected, with the air provider, with case management resources, things like with maybe, again, it's going to encompass all, living my notes, things that have to do with the case management part of it. Also, employment.
So it's unforeseeable costs that you're not sure will happen.
Right, we're not sure.
So you haven't done it yet, so you're not sure.
We have, yeah, if it's in the fund, usually it is up there, it is going to be. And that's one of those questions.
okay. And y'all do take safety net though, right?
Yes,
And that's for individuals?
yes. Which we have them on safety and we get them on safety.
Right. And what does safety net cover?
And what do you mean?
What does safety net, just for the board's knowledge?
Mental health.
So it would cover the therapist and the med management, the case management.
Yeah, case management and all that.
Okay, we'll bring it to.
And again, my only concern, when you look at the grant breakdown, total direct expense is $90,000. And that's what they're projecting is the direct cost to do this project, this partnership.
So if anything was over, or just say we get a breakdown on the invoice of this $24,433, if it's, say we look at it and you look at it, everybody says, well, this shouldn't have been used for it, that shouldn't have been used for it. Is there a way to, where they'd have to pay that back, or is it, or would that bring up the reason of the whole
No, that would
being
just,
too high?
well, no, it would just tell us that in the future,
We don't need to have it that high.
we don't have, or we can, in our future projection cost, we could say we know more than 15%. But right now, this is what we have. Lesson learned, I guess you could say,
Right.
but
But if the state's at 15%, but I guess since this has already been appropriated, we can't back it down.
We ain't been appropriate yet.
Okay. Well, if this is what they're requesting, but the state's at 15%, can we just not take it to 15% just to?
You can take it to 15% and move the funds to above the line
And they can use it for,
Well, we wouldn't have to necessarily move the funds. I mean, they've already, this is their budget. All we're doing is taking the indirect to 15%, so it would drop that 24. I mean, they've already got their direct costs. We're not messing with direct costs.
But what I'm saying is, if you're moving it down, 24,000 down, and we move it from 29, and we'll just say down, the additional access funds will need to go somewhere. That's where I'm
Put
headed.
it in, maybe in the direct cost.
I don't think I'm tracking you on that.
So right now, it says volunteer behavior approved by some pre-federal under class rated 26.9. So if we take that 15%, which would be the difference of 14, well, my math is off right now. 21, well, roughly 20%.
If you take 26.9 down to 15,
Take out 15, and then get that dollar amount and move it above
10 grand-ish.
10 grand-ish.
But if that's, I understand, I think he's saying, let's just take the 26.9%, put it down to 15%, which will give them a total, project total, in the amount of basically $10,000 less. Is that what you're saying?
It'd be 100.
Or are you saying move it up?
What it would do, so it would move that 24, so 15% would make an indirect at 13,624 and 56 cents, right? So let's just say we subtract that out of the 24 for 30.40. That's basically $10,880.82 that we could appropriate to another organization. It doesn't have to go into this project. I mean, because they've already gave us their direct expenses to
so
this.
it'd just be $10,000 we could appropriate somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yeah.
If you do that, you're still, we're on the clock, this is check number 2, so it would be part of the next appropriation, which would have roughly 100 grand in it, so you'd be up to $110,000 that we're doing, so we would have to earmark 10 grand to go towards check number 2, because it would need to be spent faster than the rest of the grants.
Yeah.
Because of the time frame, that's what you're looking at.
I mean, again, I'm not challenging the validity of the program or volunteer. I'm just thinking that especially on a appropriation.
I mean, you can do what we did with the health department, and you could move it up to specific assistance. I mean, with the cost of everything going up, somebody needs assistance, either getting or due to missing or co-pays, you could move it up there.
So you're taking that 10,000 and put it
He's
back in the
gonna put
budget,
it
but
in
they're
there.
already appropriated for what they need, so they don't need an
They
extra
don't need
10,000
it, exactly.
for that. Is what you're
Yeah.
saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but we also don't know what they're gonna need in indirect costs. It's a new program, they need the flexibility to
Right.
be able to, whether it's file folders, whatever.
Can I make a motion? And then let's discuss the motion. I make a motion that we fund this project, but that we ask for a quarterly report on the indirect funds. Because I think it's gonna be, and I understand where you're coming from, but also I would like for us to maybe, for future grant cycles, to do the 10% on any indirect.
So your motion is to, ask them to give us quarterly reports, keep it at this quarterly report
Yes.
for their indirect costs, then that's your motion. But then the second motion would be the other part.
I'd like us to look at that and at least match what the
Yeah,
state
we need to
does.
put it on our agenda.
But I mean, at $10,000, I think with this new program, and like you said, somebody made a good point, things are going up.
Yeah, it's hard to determine, but we will put on our agenda to discuss future appropriation percentages.
For the models.
Can I second his first motion?
Yes,
And then can we just put the 10% indirect cost cap in the bylaws? And item C?
we can add that in the bylaw and discuss it next month.
I think that would probably be the most efficient way. That way, everyone who's applying for something sees it on the front end.
Yeah.
Bylaws automatically 10%.
And I think like on appropriations, there shouldn't be a indirect, because appropriation is just like, these are the funds I'm giving you.
this is what you asked for, we're giving it to you. Then,
So to build it in that budget without any.
Right, with technically appropriations, there's generally not, I mean, you ask, but it's not a whole breakdown, you know? And then you're appropriated this month, this much money. I guess that's really what was, just caught my attention, and then I noticed that it's a pretty outrageous indirect
Is
cost.
that yearly or just this one time? That 24,000?
24,000 is, the contract itself is for 2 years. The amount that you're looking for, the whole entire budget is a 2-year budget. That is not a 1-year budget.
Okay. And it's not a recurring thing, they'd have to come back and.
They have to
Okay.
come back, and then
That's
in
fine.
discussions with both entities, right now, there is a federal grant they wanted to go for. That federal grant has been temporarily suspended. But once it comes back online, both entities have expressed interest in applying for it.
Okay. I'm good with
So
that.
we didn't vote on your motion to approve. You seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any motion against it?
A motion against it.
Okay, one. Okay. Anything else on your,
No, ma'am.
your done on that? Okay. Bylaws and committee meetings, you passed out at the meeting. We all got an email with that in there. Joe, just copy.
No.
And I took it in there.
Sorry.
I'm good. Okay. Here's your box.
Like,
Here's two more.
So this is what we're starting to slowly look at for the bylaws for the Opioid Abatement Committee. Article 1 is just the name. Article 2 is the mission statement. Article 3 is the membership. This is a little bit different than what we currently operate under. It has the same components, the 5 county commissioners, the sheriff, we have 1 county resident, 1 member of the recovery community, and instead, where County Mayor Isabel has not been able to attend meetings, we'll be switching that position now. And we will be instituting 1 that is a member of this, in Sumner County, that is either in the medical field or the health field, whereas the person can provide insight on what is occurring in the medical arena, focusing on opioid and drug use. So that is the makeup that we are currently looking at. Term length, county commissioners are to serve coterminous, same with the county sheriff. With those that are representing the resident side, you're looking at serving for a minimum of 2 grant cycles. And then underneath it, for duties, everybody is a voting member, which is what you all were concerned about. Staff, that represents me, it shows basically what my duty is, number 1. Number 2, the finance department will supply somebody to take the minutes, and then on top of it, regarding the grants and the direct appropriations, we actually work with the state to make sure that everything is meeting Exhibit E. We also asked for the legal department to be able to furnish opinions and appear within 72-hour notice. After that, officers, just the 2, the chair and the vice chair, which is what we currently have. The terms is what we were looking at. Which right now states is still coterminous, I believe. Then interaction with the Sumner County Commission and committees that would be given, working with us with budgets, to be able to push the budgets, and then also, working with the mayor's office for the letter of intent, with the states. Meetings, agendas, and advertisements, minimum quarterly meetings, and if the quarterly meetings do not align, then we would have 2 additional meetings, 1 focusing on the grant application, 1 focusing on the scoring. Next is special meetings. The chair has the right to call within 72 hours for a meeting. Agendas are to be posted. Advertising in the same manner when considering funds for not-for-profits, county's website, which is what we currently do. Training is a new component. At least once a year, we would have a 15-minute training component so that we are all in knowledge a little bit more, or become a little bit more knowledgeable about what we are doing. Quorum, of course, is a majority. And then we keep on going under special meetings, as Robert's Rules of Orders. This one says votes are yes or no, and if you're going to abstain, it would be given with a reason. So you can't just abstain, you actually have to give a reason for it. Minutes are recorded, and amendments are to the bylaws is 2/3 votes. So between now and next month, if you were to review it and make suggestions, if you find my typos, which there are some, and once you reword anything, please let me know, and now we'll create that document, and then we will look at it as a whole next month.
On the appropriation issue, we have a policy about doing appropriation, our money that we give out, we've developed those. I think that should go in the policy guidelines. So when we do, whoever does it, when they do look at it, they can say, oh, there's a cap. And that's in the policy, not in the bylaws, that's different. So, I think that would be appropriate. Maybe we could add that to our meeting next month, or our next meeting, and put that on there as for our policy and procedure to add that, to discuss it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, we'll vote on our bylaws next month. We don't have enough, other people aren't here, so we'll give everybody time to read the ink, bring it back. All opinions are gone. And then, our new business is, neighborhood health, Salvage Center Scope and Launch.
So Neighborhood Health received a grant for roughly $52,300 for this fiscal year, which ends June 30th. At this point in time, they have not drawn down any funds. Part of it was contingent on them being able to hire somebody to do on-site math program. That did not occur, so they have somebody that's doing it part-time. So in doing so, if you look at the last page of your package, you're wanting to be able to request $2,264.01. That way they can pay off the balances for anybody that received service under their MAP program that insurance did not cover, and that they're willing to cover the employee as well. It still falls underneath the scope of their grant application, but they just wanted to bring it forward for clarification purposes, number one. And between this one and the request for the AEDs, they will not be drawing down all of their funds for this fiscal year.
So with them not doing that, what happens to the money? Does it go back to our bucket?
So you will receive a presentation from me in July from our next meeting. We'll be able to close the books, see how much everybody's drawn down, how much is remaining. For our policy, supposed to go towards infrastructure. We did have two departments, risk management, the health department, that received funds from our second grant application. So what we could do is we could potentially shift those funds over to cover those expenses, and then free up those funds to increase the grant offering that we would do this upcoming fiscal year for the community, if you all need to do it that way.
You need a motion on this, Dusty?
Yes, please.
So,
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so the last thing is good night.
That's it, yeah.
Adjournment.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hey,
All in favor? Oh,
I was just gonna say, do we have a next committee meeting?
Oh, yes, because when is our next meeting?
Right now, it would be in June.
Oh, okay.
I'm still working out that dates because I want to make sure I have, that's why I didn't ask for it, I want to make sure I have the dates aligned with the state meetings in July.
Okay.
So I want to be able to say, this is when the state wants to meet, and I don't want you cut off guard one way or the other on it.
Perfect.
So you'll send an email asking dates?
You'll get an email from me with the
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.